This is what ruined my career, and I blame it on, I always knew it, one particular person. I was pretty big time, the man on the street on Sunset Strip. Everybody knew me. I flew in this guy, Mike, from the sound company in Columbus, Ohio, because Andy could no longer do the Whiskey A Go Go. I was the stage monitor guy, he was the house guy. He couldn't do it anymore, which moved me up to the house production manager stage, and I needed a monitor engineer to come in. And so I brought Mike in. After about 8 months, Mike decided that he really liked my job. We were having a big weekend at the Whiskey with the motels, the Go-Go's, and Sparks, I believe it was. So I went out and the Whiskey gave me $1,000 to go out and buy some new Sennheiser 421 microphones for the drums. We needed them for the club. So I went and bought these and we used them. Well, the following weekend, the night before Stryper played, we were having a party. My apartment was right next to the Whiskey Go Go on Sunset. I had a balcony that overlooked Sunset Boulevard. I had some of the guys from Rat, some of the guys from Motley Crue, a bunch of other people over at my apartment right across the street, because who became my wife, Nicole, used to make like giant spaghetti dinners, and all the guys would come over and we'd munch on them. But we needed some entertainment. So I said, well, why don't we go get the tape? We were doing cassette tapes at the time. I said, why don't you go over and get the cassette player and the tapes? And let's have some music here, And everybody's like, yeah, right. So I don't know how it turned out, but Mike talked me into going over, to the Whiskey, crawling under the stage. Now, the Whiskey stage was awesome. It was like 12 inches tall, and that's the days when Hendrix and Morrison and Janis Joplin would play on this thing, And then it was 2 feet high, and that's when Alice Cooper, and Frank Zappa and all those guys would play. So I go and I go under the stage, I pull out the power rack, I'm looking at all this years of history. I'm pulling the microphones out. I got the milk crate that it's in, and I'm leaving, and Red, the manager of the Whiskey, comes in. And he's like, yo, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, we got the guys over at our place across the way. And so he ended up giving me a case of beer for all of us, too. So I brought that over to the house. Well, the next day, I went in to do Stryper, a religious rock band. And the three Sennheiser 421 microphones were gone. So I'm like, going through the band's gear, a religious rock band. I'm going through all their gear, and we do that night without these new microphones. Well, over the next couple of days, I ended up getting fired for stealing the microphones from the Whiskey A Go Go. I knew that I didn't take them. Nicole knew that I didn't take them. But Mike, I kind of suspected that they may have set me up. I was checking all the pawn shops in LA, all the underground connections, and couldn't find these things. So I got blackballed in Hollywood. I could not work anywhere. As a matter of fact, Rat was playing the Roxy up the street, and I was going to do the sound for them that night. They were getting ready to sign a big deal and go out on the road, which I would have gone out on. And the owners of the Whiskey were the same as the Roxy, and they said, well, if Jim's going to do your sound at the Roxy, then you're not going to play the Roxy. So I ended up losing all these gigs, and I just couldn't work in Hollywood anymore. It comes to turn out, Mike I talked to about 10 years ago. He was real good friends, so he was well financed by the guys that did the song from Friends, right? The Rembrandts. He was real good friends with them. They were all based out of Minneapolis. And Mike called me one day, and he was working with Mark Farner and Grand Funk, and they were playing down in Cincinnati. Somehow he contacted me for some reason and asked if I wanted to go meet him down in Cincinnati. But in the conversation, I got out of him that he said, yeah, he was the one who took the microphones at the Whiskey A Go Go and set me up. I really think that's because I would have been working for all these big bands now, even though drinking, right, was still becoming a bigger issue, right? So the drinking may have got me fired first, right? But that should have been up to me and not Mike to map out his course for the rest of my life. That one to this day still hurts because it makes me wonder if I go back to when I was 22 years old, 23 years old, and that hadn't have happened, right? Where would I be now? I mean, Andy, my boss, who toured with Michael Jackson and the Motels and all these big bands, he ended up going on to produce the Slaughter Fly to the Angels album. I'll tell you, still to this day, the Whiskey A Go Go was the biggest downfall that hit because it really, I was going up and up and up, and this just knocked off my feet from everything. I had to totally restart. And to find out that one of my best friends did it,